Welcome to the still branded Fumbled Out of Bounds podcast presented by Crown Roofing, Tampa Bay's #1 family-owned roofing company. If you're interested in making an upgrade to your home or business this season, Crown Roofing promises to match their high-quality customer service with high-quality performance. Call today, ask for Roland Price IV, and tell him we sent you. We've got our first emergency show today in response to two high-profile wide receiver trades in both the NFL and the UFF. The team gets together to discuss implications throughout the league and review a few marquee trades from this first offseason. Let's dive into it.
We're live?
Well, I've been recording this entire time.
For like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
No, you didn't get the joke. That's fine.
Oh, okay. Yes, we are indeed live. We are indeed live. I'm sorry for not picking that one up. I definitely deserve it. So, I guess dive right into it. We came
Julio.
here. Yes, Julio.
The
Jones.
reason for the emergency pod.
Julio Jones. We've heard about it for what seems like maybe a month, 2 months now. That
month or so. Yeah.
Some whispers of Julio Jones leaving, and then obviously the famed Shannon Sharp call. Actually,
I still don't get that.
Do you think I should give him a call right now and see if I could get his instant feedback? You think he'll pick up?
Yeah. Do you guys think I was doctored? Do you think he knew? Do you think it was legit? Like he actually didn't know he was on air, or like was it planned?
I feel like his reaction was just so authentic that it had to be real. I mean, it didn't seem fake at all. Either that or Julio's got a future in acting.
I
don't know.
I heard that I thought I was listening to the GM Shuffle today, and they said that I guess Pro Football came out and said that he didn't know. I didn't see that, so I don't know.
I mean, who knows? But
it's water under a bridge now.
I mean, at this point, I mean, you got a second, so they're sending Julio to the Titans for this coming year's second and the following year's fourth.
Instant reaction. Who won the trade?
Titans.
In a vacuum, I mean, regardless, I think it's definitely the Titans.
Yeah.
As in they got the best value?
Yeah. It's a second. It's going to be a late second and a late fourth.
Okay. So I have, for one, I think this trade makes more sense in my opinion for the Titans, and that leads me to believe that they won. But I'm also, I know Austin mentioned this a little bit in our sleeper earlier. I am of the opinion that Julio Jones could be on the decline. We are not going to see the age of dominant Julio Jones again.
No, and that's fair. But at this point, the Titans already have a wide receiver one. They already have two offensive options that they can go to before him. So I think that this was the perfect landing spot for him because he's not going to be relied on like he once was to be that dominant Julio. If they get that dominant Julio, oh my gosh, it's just, I mean, then yes, it's 100% the Titans. But I think in terms of, like you said, where he's going, it's perfect.
Well, another thing is you said that it's going to be a guaranteed late second. I am kind of low on the Titans. I think that there's a legitimate chance that they take a massive step back this upcoming season. They have nobody in the back end in the secondary.
Yeah, I was gonna say they have nobody that can play corner.
They just lost Corey Davis, focal point of the office.
Jenkins would like a word.
Jonnu Smith gone.
Their OC gone.
Arthur Smith gone. Now they still have Derrick Henry, so he's going to probably just run the ball 30 times a game for 180 yards. And, it's hard to beat teams that rush for over 150 yards. But I just don't know, if this trade is what's going to make the Titans contenders. I'm not sure that Julio Jones does that at this point.
Yeah.
Or at least I'm worried about him doing it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I think, huge addition. I mean, who is their next best option? Josh Reynolds. I mean, he's not. I mean, you have to stop AJ, and that's it. But now you have Julio, and obviously, he didn't play last year. He had a lot of injury concerns. But I think we need to talk about the Falcons. What the hell are they doing? I mean, are they rebuilding? Are they going for it? I mean, they went out and sent a second for Hayden Hurst. It seemed like they were trying to, they extended Ryan. It seemed like they're trying to win now. They move money around. It just doesn't make sense to me. They go out and draft Pitts. So obviously to get Ryan another weapon, because it seems like they're, trying to go. But if they knew that Julio, I mean, we in the Twitter chat or whatever, that one tweet. I mean, I thought that was a great point. Was that a Solak or that was a
no, Sycamore?
Sycamore.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that's a great point. I mean, if they knew that they were going to get rid of Julio, why take Pitts? Why not take a quarterback or somebody else? It just, to me, it doesn't make sense. I think if anything, that puts Atlanta more in sort of
no man's land
in limbo. Like, they're not, obviously they didn't really address their defense. Their defense still stinks. So I'm not convinced that makes the Falcons better. And like Connor was saying, I'm sort of relatively high on the Titans. Definitely more than you, Shane. So I don't think they're going to win the title, but I mean, I think they'll be competitive. I'm more concerned about what the heck the Falcons are doing. I mean, Pitts could be great, but if the Falcons suck, I mean, I don't know.
I know I'm going to get slammed by the both of you for this take, but it is eerily similar to when the Giants took Saquon in 2018. It was clearly time to move on from the quarterback. Maybe not so much in Atlanta's case, but in the Giants' case. And they took a position of luxury in the top 5 when they could have moved back or taken a quarterback and played for the future. And how they've handled this continuously, it's just eerily similar to that.
Yeah, I certainly don't hate that take.
And I think that the Falcons are they're just pushing, kicking the can down the road for what's inevitable.
Yeah, no, and I get that, and maybe Arthur Smith's a great head coach, and they string together a few wins, but I would imagine they're going to have another top 10 pick this year. So, I mean, I could see them taking quarterback, next year, I guess, maybe. I don't know if it's the same level as the one we just had, but there's definitely some guys that'll go first, or in the first round, at least 3 probably.
So how do you guys feel like this impacts Julio's fantasy relevance? Is it increase, decrease, irrelevant?
I think it probably stays the same. I mean, I know we can talk about the trade. I think probably straight up, and we play Superflex. If I were looking to sell him or buy him, if I'm buying, I would try to buy probably early 2 maybe. So obviously you want to get a first if you can, but I mean late 1 probably is, I think, a fair rate for him in Superflex. But yeah, I think in terms of ADP, you're looking mock startups or redraft leagues. I don't know. I don't think it changes too much really. I mean, it's going to be a pretty similar situation with another elite threat in Ridley, and now he has AJ Brown. And I think Titans offense is certainly capable of having two elite weapons on the outside. So yeah, I would say probably stays the same.
Yeah, so I think stays the same is about right.
If you were to put a stat line projection on what you think Julio Jones is going to do this year, where would it go?
I don't know about catches or targets, but I feel like he still ends up, let me look up what were his stats the last couple of years.
Last year he was 51 receptions, 770 yards, 3 touchdowns in 9 games. He was in 2019 he had 99 receptions, 1,400 yards, 6 touchdowns. And in 18 he was 113 receptions, 1,670 yards, 8 games. So the past 2 seasons he's played, or the past 2 seasons that he's played full seasons, he was pretty dominant. And
I would say he probably, if we're assuming he plays 15 or 16 games, which the stats I'm looking at doesn't show games. There we go. Which the last couple of years before last year, he was pretty consistently 14 to 16 games. Even before that, 15, 16 games. I don't see why 1,000 to 1,100 yards isn't out of the question. Which, I mean, isn't as great as 1,600 or 1,400 yards, but
1,871 in 2015.
yeah, but he's 32 years old now. Like, you have to be realistic with where he's at in his career and what the Titans like to do. They want to run the ball.
Yeah, I would agree.
They run to pass. So I think that like a step back statistically is the same, but I feel like that's still, if he goes out and puts up 1050 to 1100, I don't know. He's never been the biggest touchdown guy. That's always been like his biggest hit.
Mm-hmm.
But he gets 4 or 5 touchdowns. I mean, that's still a solid wide receiver 2, numbers. Like, you would take that all day.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So that's kind of where I see him going. I mean, AJ Brown's going to get, his yards, his touchdowns. Derrick Henry's going to get his yards, his touchdowns. So it's interesting. What do you think, Shane?
Like, what's his
value at? I mean, we both think
value?
he's about
fantasy value.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty low on him. I just I obviously this could come back to bite me because it's Julio Jones, but he was pretty injured last year, and I see he has played all 16 games, but I feel like there's been stuff in the past, like hamstring type stuff that's kind of always lingering. And once you get past like 31 is kind of that age for wide receivers. It's like the 26 of running backs, where like once it gets past that point, like they're not the same that they used to be. So I just think when you combine the injury factor from last year, and then you combine what's likely a decline, but like this is Julio Jones. Why when I say this at the same time, I know this is Julio Jones and the best wide receiver of the last 15 years in the NFL. So it could come back, but I think there's a lot of risk to it. And
so it sounds like you're leaning towards the Falcons side of this trade in terms
no,
of
not
value.
necessarily, because I don't think that made any sense for what the Falcons were doing. So that's kind of my biggest problem with it. I'm talking like strictly from a fantasy perspective of like what I want this guy like on my team. Like, do I want to depend on him next year to be the guy?
Yeah, I agree.
Go ahead,
no. I mean, I don't know where he's going right now, what his ADP is, in redrafts, but I certainly wouldn't want him as my wide receiver 1. Like, okay, let's say you go RB, he's still on the board, 3rd round. I don't feel confident with him as my wide receiver 1 on my redraft league. But if I get another bona fide stud, if he's there in the 3rd round, maybe early 4th, and you get like a Devontae, or you take Tyreek Hill early, I think I'd be okay with him as a wide receiver 2, because if he's peak Julio, then you have he's plays great, and then you have two great wide receivers. But if he doesn't, then at least it's not your stud wide receiver. But I'm kind of with Shane. The more sort of talking about it, I'm kind of coming down off the hill a little bit. But yeah, I mean, obviously time will tell. It's only June. But hey, we got football news. We get to talk football. Talk football in the middle of June. So
yeah,
I think like from a dynasty perspective, if someone came and offered me like a first for him, if I was like, I mean, I guess it kind of depends where your team's at. But if I'm kind of like a middle of the road team and someone came and offered me a first for Julio, I would take it. And maybe that screws you in the end, but like he probably just doesn't fit that timeline for you.
Well, Julio ain't going anywhere. He's going to Roland's team to die. That man will be a floor Gator for the rest of his time, in my opinion.
And he fits Roland's trying to win now, so like that's fine. Like it fits Roland's timeline.
We want to talk about that whole trade.
Yeah, I mean,
pull that up.
It fits everything that Roland's done. Like when it comes to Dynasty, it's all about like aggression to him and get guys that can compete and play now. And I think that like the qualities of this trade.
Here, hold on. Let's say what the trade was. It was
Julio. I got it. So
yeah, go ahead.
So Tin Rob, what place did he come in? He finished what, 9th? I mean, he made Final Four. I don't know what position he finished last year. Anyway, seems like Robert's heading towards a rebuild, right? And we talked about last episode, moving Kamara, getting younger. So he sends Chris Carson, Adam Thielen, Julio Jones, and gets back Jerry Jeudy, AJ Dillon, a 2023 first and a 2023 second.
Mm-hmm. And then he flipped Chris Carson for
Chris Carson
for the draft picks. Yeah, so uh, I agree. I think this trade fit both the teams' timeline
Yep.
pretty well. Like when I think about value here, like you know, Julio Jones is probably worth like a late first, like you said at this point.
Mhm.
Adam Thielen, I would say, is probably pretty similar, like a solid
Yeah.
bet, like wide receiver two,
Right. Yeah.
has
He's
upside,
always seems to produce. Yeah.
but he's getting a little bit older. How
He's
old is?
30.
Yeah,
He's
so he's
30.
he's approaching that same 31-year-old timeline, but it's not like Thielen doesn't really like rely too much on like athleticism when it comes to his
Sneaky
performance.
athlete.
Yeah, so like there's a chance like he could go a little bit deeper in his career. Um, and then for Robert, he's got, he acquired Jonathan Taylor from Michael this offseason, which I think you can count on Jonathan Taylor probably for at least the next 3 years.
Hmm.
You know, Jerry Jeudy, obviously a little bit of a disappointing first year, but there's a
They got to
chance
figure out the quarterbacks in Denver
there's a chance for
for
him
him
to,
to succeed.
rebound. That guy in college, he just was so nasty and so smooth, and like it
Yeah.
felt like his game was going to translate to the NFL just seamlessly. Um,
I mean, disappointing year, but he still had 856 yards.
yeah, as a
So,
rookie, but you, I just think like you take
Yeah.
that guy, you think he's going to be like a focal point, and especially like if you compare to what like Justin Jefferson did, like it it's tough,
yeah, I mean, he only had 131 fantasy points, and for our league, he ended up as wide receiver 47. So that's like it's a wide receiver four. So I mean, that's not awesome by any means.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I think you'd have to factor in like the quarterback concern. Like this guy has I personally think that they should start Teddy Bridgewater. I don't think Luck is doing them anything right now, and I think that they have a really good team around um, them, and Bridgewater's not going to mess it up for him. But
Yeah.
he's not going to have like a dynamic quarterback that's like chucking the ball down the field. Now, when the long game happens and the Broncos trade for Aaron Rodgers, Jerry Judy stonks to the meme or just to the moon.
Yeah.
So
No, that's a fair point. Chris Carson's an interesting part of this trade. I mean, like you mentioned earlier, he's at that 26-year-old mark. Seattle, I mean, they got rid of their offensive coordinator. Pete Carroll says he wants to go back to running the ball more. They re-upped, and when they give him a 1-year deal,
No, 2
2-year
years,
deal.
14.625 million.
Yeah,
that's a pretty good commitment there. I mean, if you're going to pay your running back $7 million, I think
At
that's
26, yeah.
yeah.
and he's got so 2-year deal at 26. I mean, Seattle's always had a lot of different guys in that room, but he seemed to be the main one in the last couple of years. AJ Dillon, I mean,
This is where the
Jamal
trade.
Williams.
Yeah, this
Go
is where
ahead.
the trade like gets like either Rollins like either Robert will win the trade based off of AJ Dillon or Roland will probably win the trade if Dillon doesn't pop off. Because
Yeah.
I mean, if the question is like I just don't know when is Dillon going to see the field. Like
Because they just re-upped Aaron Jones, and I'm pretty sure they gave him
like a
4
bag.
years.
They gave him a bag,
Yeah.
like 4 years, 60 million, I think.
Yeah, something like that. That sounds about right.
Aaron Jones.
So I mean, like Jamal
Gosh.
Williams was, what was he like a RB3? RB3 at his peak at Jamal Williams when he was in Green Bay.
Yeah. 4-year, 48 million for Aaron
48
Jones
million. Yeah.
at 26.
And it's probably really a 3-year deal. Has a let me see here. Let's
The
look
first and the second, though, like everything I've read, 2023 seems to be like
Next good class.
is a very strong running back class with Bijan, Tank, Jahmyr Gibbs, all those kids that were really strong in their freshman years. So
the problem though is I just said like he's got Jonathan Taylor. I mean Dak's going to be a while. AJ Brown's going to be around for a while. Kareem Hunt, like by the time like those 2023 guys start coming into the fold, like Kareem Hunt's
Hunt
probably
will be
not
28, 29,
he's probably
right?
not going to be extremely relevant. He'd probably be a depth piece, because he doesn't have a lot of miles on him. Stafford, how many years does he have left in the tank? I mean, quarterbacks are playing deep nowadays.
He's 33.
So,
You could probably get a solid 3 or 4 years left to Stafford. So I'm not concerned about that.
yeah, I'm just curious to see of when he's going to be able to get
I mean,
all
his
his
wide receivers
guys.
are set. I mean, he's got Chase and AJ Brown, so that's fine. I mean, he's
And
got
Jerry Judy.
Hollywood.
Yeah, he did
Who
just
knows what?
did just draft Chase.
Yeah, and who knows what Hollywood is like fantasy wise?
I
I
don't
mean,
think you can depend on him.
Nope, I certainly wouldn't want to.
no, and he's at so he was wide receiver 36 last year. Before that, he in 2019 he only had 126 points. So
I mean, he's got a strong young core though of AJ Brown, Jonathan Taylor, and Jamar Chase. Like that's
and
basically
Dak.
like it. Yeah, and Dak, and that's basically like if you think about this from a rookie draft perspective, that's like a first rounder, a first rounder, a first rounder, and he just needs to hit on another two. If he can hit on his next, two of the next three first rounders, and he's going to be a team to watch out for. But
Yeah, he just needs a running back and then probably another piece of
but
either running back or wide
but
receiver.
it's
Yeah.
going to be another 2 to 3 years. So he's
Yeah.
going to have to continue to develop that. If I was him, I'd be looking to move, I don't know, anybody that's not going to be relevant to him in 2 to 3 years.
Right.
So
Yeah.
You want to talk about the other big news today?
wide receiver transactions.
Yeah, we want to talk about mostly high character dudes.
Yeah,
Mostly high character dudes.
Julio Jones not the only blockbuster wide receiver to be traded today.
Let's break it down from the man himself.
I can break it down. So, last time
How did this start?
Last time we chatted about like I just acquired Kamara. I'm at a place where I have two RB1s, should be top 5 guys, and you can really only have a couple of year window where you can take advantage of that. I take a look at my roster, and the other thing that I'm missing was a stud wide receiver. I've got guys with upside. Galladay, we'll see what he is in New York. I would love to see him succeed like he used to. I've got Tyler Lockett, obviously. He's going to take a step back probably with DK, but I just think, Russell Wilson is good enough to support 2 wide receivers. But neither of those guys are like week winners too often when it comes to fantasy, and that's what I'm looking for right now. And the way it started was I took a look at I was just taking a look at the leaders on the sleeper rankings and the projections for 2020 2021 NFL season, and I was just taking a look at some names so Metcalf. I knew I wanted a dude. I was like, Metcalf is obviously probably not up. AJ Brown probably not available. Devontae Adams. Clarence loves the Packers. I don't think he's looking to move him. Hopkins I thought about, especially being able to have the stack. You gotta love the stack. And that's probably the guy that I would have went to next. Michael isn't moving from Diggs. He wants to win. Austin's not moving on from Allen Robinson, and we're getting to the point now that like these guys they're obviously elite names, but like they're not like top 3, top 4 type dudes that I'm talking about. So
yeah,
I just pull up Tyreek Hill. I take a look at Nick's roster. I think about what could be beneficial for us, and I think Nick's at a place where he needs to find like young talent and continue to grow that. And Juju, I think, is a solid piece for that. I think Juju's got another 6-7 years of football in him, and he had a down year last year, and after like an explosive first couple of years in the league, and I just like I did not want to. I have some hope for Juju long term, but like I didn't want to have a dependence on him next year, and especially like knowing the state of Big Ben.
He's only on a 1-year deal.
Exactly. There's a lot of uncertainty there, so I was happy to kind of move on from him, and I think that he'll be able to still find success, and it'll fit Nick's timeline better. Jordan Love, I've got my third quarterback. Obviously, this is kind of something that like if Jordan Love pans out, this is a great deal for Nick, and he's gonna be extremely happy that he made this move. And then I initially offered him. This was a quick trade. This happened, boom bang. I sent him Jordan Love, Juju and a second for Tyreek Hill straight up. I didn't want to jerk him around and offer him something that was unfair because I wanted him to know I was really serious about this. He immediately responded back with a counter of, my first instead of my second, which I knew that he was going to do. And it honestly is probably a fair trade. And then, I just decided to go after the second in 2023 because why not get a little extra piece added on there at the end. So that's how it happened. And then, he accepted it right away when I sent the counter of the 2022 third, and mostly high character dudes. So I got myself a new I hired myself a new gun, and hopefully he's going to go out and put up a few big weeks for me, lead me to the ship. So
we can be Chiefs fans together. It'll be great.
Yeah, and I had Tyreek Hill a couple of years ago in a redraft, and he is just so fun to watch. Having him on your fantasy team, that's how I feel about Kyler too. I just love watching those guys play, and I just know how fun it's going to be watching Red Zone, and then I just see a 55-yard Tyreek Hill bomb, and I'm going to be like, fuck yeah, injected in my veins. So you've transformed your roster this offseason from kind of a middle of the road, you were picking 6 to a definite contender. You're just hoping Galladay can just put up a solid wide receiver, high-end wide receiver 2-year in New York. Chubb and Kamara are going to, as long as they stay healthy, are fine. Kyler with his rushing upside's great. Lockett and Gallup, 2 solid flex plays. And then Wentz, if you get a QB2 type season from Wentz, you're going to be right there. The other thing about this is that I like about it is it's not I need to win this year, in my opinion. I think I have a minimum of 2 years with this roster that I can run out and expect these guys to be elite players. And I think that there's a solid chance it could be stretched to 3, but that's when my running backs start to get a little bit old. So it'll be close. But I think that it's the best way to win championships is give yourself multiple shots at it. And I think with this trade, I did that. So
are you concerned about depth?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
And that's where I'm going to have to continue to draft well in the future. And that's where it kind of sucks giving up my first rounder next year. Damian Harris is my RB3, which is not ideal. It's going to be tough for me to weather bye weeks and stuff like that, but there's no bye weeks in the playoffs, and that's when it matters. And obviously if injuries happen, that's just the way it is. Fantasy, your dudes get hurt. Nobody's going to just have guys in the depths all day long. So we'll see. I don't know.
I agree. Chase, do you have anything on this?
For both teams, I think direction Nick's trying to go, but I think Smith to relevancy. I agree, super young. I totally see where you're coming from. 1-year deal. Who knows what happens with Ben? Who knows if he's a Steeler next year?
So I think the last thing we wanted to do was talk about some of the off-season trades that we've had so far, things that are really going to shake up the league. Obviously, Roland was involved in both of them because he is the king of trading in this league.
He is.
He went out and acquired himself just 2 top 5 dynasty quarterbacks. I don't really know exactly how he managed to do this, but he is a wizard. And he got it done. Obviously, one of them comes with question marks. Do we want to start with the Deshaun trade? Chase, you can give some background.
Yeah, sure. So let me pull it up real quick. But yeah, so the trade, I sent Deshaun Watson. I got Curtis Samuel, Johnny Smith, and J.K. Dobbins. Obviously, Deshaun was my first pick. I had 112 in our startup draft last year. First pick. So obviously someone I wanted to build my team around. Thankfully, I need to make a decision to jump off that boat. And Texans are a dumpster fire, and now thankfully he's no longer my problem. So, I hope in the end justice is served, but I was trying to maximize on his value. I had somebody, I didn't want to be left holding the cards in case, he gets suspended, gets put on the exemption list, whatever. So I thought, I got a fair offer. I think Roland sort of knows he's going in to compete. So he was looking for somebody to maybe take him over the edge. And, I think it's going to be interesting because Curtis Samuel and John are both, in new environments, new teams. So that might be not the best. But I think the biggest piece is J.K. Dobbins. My running backs were terrible. Dobbins, I think, is legit. And, a building block to for years to come. He's only 22. We know the Ravens love to run the ball. I think that's pretty much. He knows I've been wanting JK for a while, and I have Cam Akers. So I think by the time I'm ready to compete, they'll be in their prime. So we were going back and forth, and we were able to strike a deal. And and then I drafted Lawrence and Fields. So I'm satisfied with the business that I did. Obviously, trading with Roland always a little scary, but yeah, I'm curious to see what you guys think looking back on it, because this was a few months ago.
This was before free agency, right?
Yeah. This was March, right after the season started. So, I guess
it was on March 25th.
Yeah.
March 25th.
Yeah.
Okay, so was Jonnu in New England yet, or Curtis? No, I don't think so.
No.
I mean, I completely get why you did this, and I get why Roland did it. I mean, Roland's trying to win now, and if Watson plays, and then the next trade we're going to talk about as well, then obviously this is going to help propel him to, winning now, so to speak. Curtis Samuel landing in Washington is interesting. He wasn't very fantasy relevant until this past year, if I remember correctly. Ended up as a low or a high end wide receiver 3, kind of on that bubble. He was wide receiver 25. So who knows? I mean, Washington's building their team right. J.K. Dobbins, I think, as long as Baltimore just doesn't spread the ball around too much, which is always like your fear with them. I mean, J.K. Dobbins has all the talent in the world to be an absolute stud. And Jonnu, I mean, going to New England, it should be interesting. I mean, in Tennessee, he was awesome, though. So it'll be interesting. I mean, yes, if Deshaun Watson plays, he's, a top 5 real life quarterback, a top 5 dynasty quarterback. That's awesome. But I understand you wanting to mitigate your risk because we, like you said earlier, we're not lawyers. We have no idea what's going to happen.
Right. Yeah. And I think at the end, we want justice served. But yeah, I think from what I've been seeing, I think Tyrod's probably going to start week 1. I think, if you look at projections, I don't know what Mills' projection looks like, but I don't think I've seen any projection to where Deshaun's, practicing, playing in the facility. So I don't know. Change thoughts, and then we'll wrap up and move to the next trade we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, you got back J.K. Dobbins, which is just a cornerstone. And I think the best part about that is you could have got 2 firsts probably in comparison. But the thing about Dobbins is I think it's pretty out there that he's going to be good. And I think he's in an offense that, they've led the league in rushing the last 3 years. Obviously, some of that contributes to Lamar, but it's still a factor. And I think they're going to continue to build this team to run the ball, and that's going to be really significant for you. Curtis Samuel doesn't do much for me. I think he's a solid depth piece. He started figuring himself out last year, but he's not going to change. He's not going to win you a championship, but he can step in and play.
He's a good flex play to have.
Yeah, you don't feel bad putting that guy in a lineup. And the Jonnu play is really fun. I mean, New England obviously loves to utilize their tight ends, and I think they're going to be a focal point of the offense. And now you've got him and Irv Smith that you can based off of matchups, or you can flip one of them and see if you can maybe improve something else on your roster. But the only thing that I thought of, and Robert actually brought this up, is that trading Deshaun Watson, it honestly, you were in a position where you recognize you weren't even really trying to win. So what if he gets suspended this year? Who cares? You know what I'm saying? So that's you're on a team that could take that, swallow that hit.
Right.
And then, you've got Deshaun Watson for the next, 6 years. But there's more than just the suspension factor. It's is this guy going to, continue to play in Houston? This organization does, they don't help him at all. Is he going to is this going to bother him mentally? There's a lot of factors that go
right.
in.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, I was trying to mitigate as much risk as possible. I mean, I know I have 4 firsts next year. I'm still probably a year or 2 away. But yeah, I was just trying to mitigate risk. I think JK is a worthwhile cornerstone, and I think Johnny and Curtis are young enough to step up. I think they're decent on their own, and they're in a new system. So if they work out, great. But I mean, I'm fine banking on JK and hoping for the best.
So in keep trade cut evaluation, you smashed Roland.
I'm sure I did.
And I imagine that there's been some reflection of value on Deshaun Watson over the last couple of months as we continue to go forward with this. But as of now, they say in order for that trade to have been even, like you should have also given up like Amari Cooper. So
like a bona fide wide receiver 1. Wow,
or Baker Mayfield is like a QB 2. So congratulations on.
But keep trade cut win.
I would hate to put in.
Hey, that's all that matters.
I'd hate to put in what my Carson Wentz trade is right now, but
don't do that.
Positive vibes only.
I don't know why we didn't talk about that. Just imagine how great your team would have been if you had Herbert instead of Wentz. Where you'd be.
We don't positive vibes.
That's gonna be the whole episode 3 will just be that.
Yeah. All right. You guys want to talk about the other top 5 quarterback trade Roland made?
Yeah. I have it pulled up right now. So Roland received Josh Allen, and he sent to Nick Brandon Cooks, Goff, Josh Jacobs, Van Jefferson, and a 21-208, which I will pull up the draft board while you guys give your initial thoughts and tell you who that 208 turned into.
Was that Terrace Marshall? I think it was Terrace Marshall.
That might have been Marshall, it wasn't Bateman.
No, because Bateman
might have been. Yeah, Bateman went 207.
Bateman went to Dad.
That's right.
It's Terrace Marshall.
Yeah. So just for date, this was before he got Deshaun. So this was on March 8th. Obviously giving up a lot. Brandon Cooks, I think, is incredibly underrated. The dude's been on like 6 teams, but he, I think he consistently produces. I feel bad because he's in Houston and Houston sucks. Goff, I think we sort of talked about who knows how long he's actually going to be in Detroit. Josh Jacobs, the Kenyon Drake signing in Las Vegas sort of, I think, brings him down to tier 2. Van Jefferson, another flyer. I don't see him being really worth anything. And then effectively Terrace Marshall, I think, I think Roland wins this trade. I mean, Josh Allen is just incredible and I think only going to get better. So I don't understand it, but I would have loved to have gone out and made a trade like this. But I mean, having Josh Allen for the next decade is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Allen from a fantasy standpoint is definitely a top 5 dynasty asset right
He's
now.
Probably a top 5 dynasty asset, like in general.
Right. Like asset in general. Like I think he's a top 5 dynasty asset. I mean, like the only ones you can maybe argue above him are like Mahomes, maybe CMC, maybe like he's definitely.
Don't forget Kyler Murray.
Whatever makes you sleep at night. So Cooks, he like
keep trade cut has him as the second most valuable guy. Mahomes, Allen, McCaffrey, Murray.
Yeah, no, not surprised. I mean, Cooks.
Herbert 6. Fuck.
I can't believe he's only 27. I feel like he's been around. He's been around forever. But who knows with that quarterback situation? Goff. I mean, who knows? Jacobs at the time. Jacobs' value was much different than it is now because this was before Kenyon Drake signed in Oakland or in
Vegas.
Excuse me. Van Jefferson. I love Van Jefferson as a homer, but I'm not seeing where he's going to fit in on this Rams offense. Maybe like as a wide receiver 3, maybe, but who knows if that's really valuable. And then what ended up being Terrace Marshall. So, I mean, this is such a Roland trade. Just a bunch of pieces, a bunch of guys and one superstar.
I mean, it's all those players outside maybe Cooks have question marks, and you trade 5 question marks for a sure thing in Josh Allen. I mean, doesn't get
Cooks has question marks. You don't know who his quarterback. If it's Watson, then great, awesome.
I also just don't think Cooks fits what Nick's timeline at all.
Yeah,
it's just the thing.
No, he's 27.
He should be trading Cooks. Like this is a guy that he should be trying to trade to someone like me to improve my depth. Even if it's just for, I don't know, it's a young guy or just a draft pick. You know what I'm saying? Like this Cooks is not going to bring value to Nick's team.
Right.
So that's the problem. But I do like getting Goff back. I mean, he's a question mark, but I think Goff is like going to stick around in the NFL, and he's going to be a solid QB2, which is always nice to have.
If I was Nick, I would be trying to send Goff to PJ, like right now. Because, I mean, PJ needs the quarterback help for the next year or two.
Yeah, that's a good
Because
thought.
this is PJ's winning window. I don't know what I'm pulling up Nick's team. I don't know what his other quarterbacks look like.
He's got Tua, and he's got Teddy. So he's
Tua
got
and Teddy's.
Yeah, I think Tua is going to be fine, but I think you'd rather have him be QB2, not QB1.
Yeah.
So
Yes, and I mean Teddy, you're hoping that he just starts soon. That's kind of what you're hoping for.
But
Also,
you don't want to put Teddy out for fantasy. That guy is probably like 26 quarterback.
Unrelated, but I'm looking at Nick's roster. Jordan Love's projected 12.13 points in week 1.
Yeah,
The sleeper knows something we don't.
yeah.
What the hell?
And he just got Jordan Love, which I mean, I actually love for him because that's just like a high upside. Like if it hits, like it hits. If not, oh well.
Yeah.
And if Tyrod he has Tyrod too, so I mean, like there's some opportunity there for some like QB3, QB2 from him or for him. But yeah, if I was him, I'd be calling PJ and be like, "Hey PJ, you want Goff or what?" So yeah, but typical roll and trade, you know, like we said, bunch of guys and then one superstar coming back.
Yeah.
I
Here's
honestly,
something we didn't talk about, going back to the Julio thing. Okay, now let's revisit the Ridley for 2 firsts and Robert Woods.
Yeah, I think it's exactly what I mean. We talked about that last time, though. This was like I think on the assumption that this was going to happen. So, I mean, it helps Michael a little bit. Like it makes his trade a little bit better because now Ridley's like the bona fide one. But I mean, there's a chance like maybe it offsets because now Ridley is the main focal point of the defense to stop them.
Yeah.
So
they have Kyle Pitts, so who knows?
yeah.
I mean, yeah, they got Pitts.
It's hard to rely on rookies in the NFL.
Especially and everyone.
Tight end is like the hardest position to play because they have to block and they have to, run all their routes and stuff like that. So I don't expect. I mean, Kyle Pitts is a freak though, so he could go out and dominate right away. But I just think it's going to be a learning curve for him. So
I agree. I'm interested to see how the Falcons end up. I mean, the NFC South is a weird division. I mean, who knows what the Saints are going to be? I mean, other than quarterback, the Saints always they have a solid roster. Panthers are an ascending team. I mean, with Darnold, the NFC South it's going to be interesting for sure. And same thing with the Titans. But yeah, and I don't know. You guys have anything else?
No, man.
Yeah, I mean, come and continue to send me trades. I'm looking to dominate the rest of you guys. So any elite players that you want to get rid of.
And Tannehill now worth 3 firsts.
Send it my way.
Tannehill now up to
I'm gonna get him.
The stonks are up to they're on Mars now. I mean, gosh, incredible.
So but it was good.
Good emergency pod.
Yes, good emergency pod.
Oh, hey, first one almost got 100 views. So appreciate the support. So we're not quitting our day jobs anytime soon, but exciting stuff. So
very. All right, Shane, can you stop recording?